Get ready for an offer that could save you money, and we'll talk about some money moves you should consider when we head into the new year with new leadership. I'm Erik Brenner. Join me right now for Your Wealth Health. Hello and welcome to Your Wealth Health. I'm Erik Brenner, owner of Hilltop Wealth Solutions. Thanks for joining us this morning. We know some of you are watching us on Facebook. Please share us with someone, and also want to thank you if you're watching us on yourwealthhealth.com. Joining me today is our regular crew, Bill Davis. He joins me here in the studio. He's a private wealth advisor for Hilltop Wealth Solutions, and we're continuing to practice social distancing. And also our Director of Wealth Management, Matt Arends, who's joining us from his home in Valparaiso. And this morning we have a second of two shows on tax decisions, financial moves, things you should consider. And today we're going to focus on the upcoming year in 2021. So Bill, let's take a look at some decisions that people should consider as they move into 2021. You know, the first one on our graphic there is really rebalancing your portfolio.
Yeah, Erik, we've had a really interesting year, right? So we had come off the lows of March 20th. Pretty much everything across the board got pretty well decimated. But the recovery coming out of the March 20 lows, and from the pandemic sell-off, some pieces of a diversified portfolio would have done, significantly better than other pieces of the portfolio. An example would have been, your large cap growth investments would have outperformed any large cap value investments. Your small caps may have underperformed. We're still seeing some underperformance in the foreign area as well, in the international equity area and emerging markets. So now is a great time to look at rebalancing your portfolio back to the diversification, because what's happening in the market is we're now starting to get a rotation, and that rotation is coming back into some of the more value-oriented stocks, which would tend to be small caps, mid caps. We're starting to see the large cap area have some rotation over to a value mix more than a growth mix. And so we just think that now would be a great time to look at some healthcare, some technology, some international, possibly getting back to some high yield exposure, because we've the high yield sector in the bond market got pretty well hit this year. And so I don't think anybody should try to be too speculative. I think that it's a great time that people are back above water, after the lows of the year, that now they would focus on getting rebalanced back to that diversified portfolio and not try to second guess any sector.
So taking that rebalance, Matt, one of the things that I know we've talked about as a team is the challenge with fixed income bonds and with the interest rate environment today. So, how should folks start thinking about that going into 2021?
I think they have to take a look at just a lot of what we would call duration risk, which just means how long are they going to own those bonds, the maturity of those bonds, and to begin to position themselves to understand that in the low interest rate environment, the yields on those fixed income portfolios are going to stay suppressed for quite some time. So they have to begin to look at, do I maintain holding assets there? What type of bonds do I own in there? Do I stick with duration risk, move to credit risk, those types of things? And if the yield isn't enough, then you start looking at other options within an investment portfolio. Do you have to move to things like preferred stocks or real estate, dividend paying stocks, that type of thing? So you really just need to not just get stuck in it, begin to say, hey, what's going to give me the yield that I need to support my retirement income, but also not take on an exorbitant amount of risk and volatility. So it's a unique balance, but there is opportunity there as well to say, hey, if fixed income is down right now in my portfolio, can I do some year-end tax harvesting, capture some losses there, which could help offset some tax exposure as well. So just a lot of unique advantages and opportunities that people have to look at right now.
And I know that fixed income that, Matt had some good points there, is, we are certainly in discussions right now. We know that's going to be a challenge for more conservative portfolios in getting some sort of yield that's attractive. So moving into taxes, big thing. We talk about that a lot. So how should someone think about their tax situation going into 2021?
Yeah, I mean, we're still in the lowest tax environment that we've ever experienced, probably in my 24 years. And so with a new administration coming, I think that people should understand, what their effective tax rate is, and start to look at tax savings opportunities, prior to year end. So some of these things that, Matt referenced, short-term, long-term losses, short-term, long-term gains. A lot of people don't realize that tax harvesting involves doing that before December 31st. And so when I'm talking about rebalancing a portfolio and it's in a taxable account, you're facing the issue of those areas of the market that have done really well, people have a gain in. The areas that haven't done as well, people may have a loss in, and you can offset losses against gains, but it does require some professional planning. It's not just something that you just sell what you did well and buy what you didn't do so well. You need to make sure you understand the tax ramifications, and you need to do that before the end of the year, which is coming fast.
Yeah, and I know I had a situation where a client had a stock they wanted to diversify from it, and it's a good stock, and they wanted to do it this year, but just by waiting till January 2nd, it's going to make a big difference because they're retiring next year. So, just making those moves, you got to be cautious as it relates to just paying more taxes than what's really, really necessary. Maximizing IRAs, Matt, we look at that and see, A, are you maximizing your retirement plan if you've got one? And then B, are you maximizing IRA contributions if you qualify?
Exactly. Pre-tax contributions into traditional IRAs, simple IRAs, those types of things are something that we encourage people to look at. They may or may not make sense. The pre-tax contribution into a traditional IRA for those under age 50 is $6,000 a year. You can also do spousal contributions. If you're over 60, you can throw in an additional $1,000. So we're always encouraging people to take a look at those as options. If you have catch-up contributions in your 401k plans, that's another way that you can maximize those retirement plans. But it is money that is pre-tax, so it's taken right off the front end, top lines of your tax return. So you're not paying any income tax on the associated income with that.
So requirement and distributions, Bill, we had the new Secure Act, which now seems like so long ago.
Yeah, it was only March.
Yeah. So the Secure Act came out January 1st, but then really getting effective. They waived required minimum distributions. Probably don't see that next year. So people need to prepare that they're probably going to need to take those.
Sure. So we can calculate what somebody's required minimum distribution is going to be next year, and so that may be something that somebody wants to look at, thinking that potentially we could go into higher tax rates next year. And if you didn't take your RMD and now your IRA grew again for the year, and you're going to be a year older as it relates to the table of life expectancy table, they may want to reduce the IRA value prior to year end by maybe doing a Roth conversion or taking some income for the holidays or something like that. Once they understand their effective tax rate, they might see that it's not that much money to go ahead and get some money out of the IRA.
And the Secure Act, obviously, January 1st, it was effective, the largest piece of retirement legislation in 10 years. Now there's got some energy around this Secure Act 2.0, which, we don't like speculating a lot what's going on in Washington until really it gets, close. But in that, they're talking about required minimum distributions moving from 72 to 75. So, somebody doesn't need their required distributions right away in 2021. Maybe you should wait and see kind of what floats out here over the next few months, because it could change.
That's right.
It could change mid-year. So last thing real quick, Bill, refinancing mortgages.
Yeah, interest rates are at all-time low, Erik, so I think it's a great opportunity for people to consider doing a refinance, potentially lowering the term and lowering the interest that they're going to pay for the life of the loan.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Well, we know this can seem confusing, and that's why we are here. As part of our ongoing commitment to really educating and giving back to our community, we are offering up a complimentary tax analysis. So if you want to take advantage of this offer, you can just call the number on the screen. That's 574-633-1476. Again, 574-633-1476. That's a $500 to $1,000 value, and we're offering this for the first 10 callers. And you can also sign up for it at our hilltopwealthsolutions.com website. Still to come on Your Wealth Health, some other money-saving issues to consider as we head into 2021. And again, once again, here's that phone number for that complimentary tax analysis. Stay with us.
Sam's Car Wash, corner of State Road 23 and Fur Road in Granger.
Welcome back to Your Wealth Health. I'm Erik Brenner, owner of Hilltop Wealth Solutions, along with private wealth advisor Bill Davis and our Director of Wealth Management, Matt Arends. And we're talking today about financial decisions people should consider as they head into 2021. And some other important topics, Bill. We have your health.
Yeah.
Don't want to overlook that.
Yeah, so assessing your current health situation, talking about things you can still do prior to year end. I think a lot of people have avoided maybe going for that test that their doctor recommended, but getting that in before year end would be a good financial decision, because you may have already met your medical deductibles for the year, and so the out-of-pocket cost to go and get whatever, the blood test or the EKG or whatever, something that your doctor may have recommended that you would get from your last physical, might be good to go ahead and do that. And being able to assess your health going forward, and what are the actions that that might be required to going into 2021.
And I know that with that, there's a lot of challenges, and a lot of the facilities now, with the increase in cases, have, put off the elective surgery. So, right. and so a lot of people aren't going to be able to get that done before year end. So healthcare coverage, Matt, that's another important factor. Many people that have healthcare may have already reviewed it with their employer going into next year, but that's another thing to consider. What is your health care, and are you really in the best options?
Exactly. What type of plan are you looking at? And the even the benefits that many employers are giving employees have a lot of options to choose from, whether it's just a simple copay type of a plan, or it's a high deductible plan. Should I insure my family, or should one spouse be on an employer and the other spouse be on a separate employer, and where do the kids go within the plans? There's a lot of different options, even when it comes to things like dental insurance and eye care insurance. Just weighing the options and the costs of what that coverage looks like. It's one of those things that it's a very expensive choice and an expensive decision what to do and not to do, but we're always recommending that people begin to just openly discuss what that looks like with your employer, with your advisor, on the type of coverage. Even when that comes into Medicare, what type of Medicare supplement coverage are you looking at and getting? It's not something that's forever, right? It's a one-time decision that will last for the next year, but it is something that could be very costly based on the benefits and the type of health that you're in, to Bill's point.
So health savings accounts, Bill, HSAs, have become even more and more popular here, I would say, over the last 5 to 7 years. Mm-hmm. So what do folks need to know about those, if they've got them, or maybe if they're being offered an HSA?
Yeah, so if they're on a high deductible plan, then they have the ability to contribute pre-tax dollars, or they're actually putting in after-tax dollars, but getting a tax deduction, a front-page deduction on their tax return. In some instances, up to around $7,000 for a family. So that takes some planning, right? I mean, many people aren't sitting around with $7,000 in the bank to do that. And so whether they're doing an HSA to get a deduction, or many companies have flex spending accounts. To Matt's point, you're in this open enrollment period right now, and so people have to make a decision. How much am I going to defer out of my payroll into my flex spending account, which is just like an HSA. It's just funded differently. Your HSA is going to be funded from your after-tax money that you're getting from your payroll, and that just requires some planning. I know that people will go to do their taxes, and the tax accountant will go, "Did you do an HSA?" And they're like, "No, I didn't," and they don't have the money to do it.
Right.
So
and you don't have to, it's not a use it or lose it. So that
No,
money can build up in the HSA.
That can grow.
And then somebody can use it down the road, which is really good. So, we have, there's 10,000 baby boomers retiring each day. That's continuing. So a lot of people next year will get to that magic age of 65. And so if they haven't already, the mailboxes are getting full of all kinds of coverage options with Medicare, and we've covered it a lot on the show. So how should people think about that if they're going to be 65 next year? What should they be thinking?
Yeah,
about?
I mean, if they're going to turn when they age in, we call it age into the Medicare age, there's going to be decisions to make as it relates to, am I going to do a Medicare Advantage plan, or am I going to do a supplement, a Medicare supplement plan? And those are uniquely different. Like you say, we've covered it on the show, and people could go back to yourwealthhealth.com and watch those shows online if they wanted to. But yeah, if you're aging in any time in 2021, you want to start looking at your coverage options about 3 months ahead of turning 65.
Great. So life insurance, Matt. We've gone into the global pandemic, and again, coming into January, February, we thought 2020 was going to be a great year, and then everything started. It's a good time to revisit your life insurance options and what you could do for the future.
It's a great time, especially with what we're seeing is a lot of transition going on with people in careers. So moving from one company to the next based on furloughs or layoffs and getting rehired. A lot of people will have only life insurance through their employer, which is traditionally not transferable. And so they're going from coverage to lack of coverage back to coverage. And so we're suggesting that people begin to develop their own life insurance plan outside of their employer. We're also seeing a lot of people, having potential for increasing their family next year. More kids, more babies coming. And so that's going to just take some planning on proper coverage for your spouse and your kids, and how much insurance do you need? So it's a great opportunity to take a look at your financial situation and say, how much coverage is right for me? I could have a growing family, that type of thing. That's going to adapt and change on a regular basis. So it's not one of those things where we say, hey, you buy it and then just don't have to worry about it for the rest of your life. You do have to pay attention to that regularly.
And not worrying about it, Bill, when I think about life insurance, especially the cash valued policies, the ones that are building cash, we often see where people think that's going to be good for the rest of their life. But if they're not what we call properly funded, which means enough premium in and properly funded, they really could expire. And the whole strategy may not quite work out like someone thought that it was going to work out.
Yeah, people really need to look at their annual statements to make sure that the cash value on a permanent policy isn't going the wrong direction, because cost of insurance goes up every year, and so that could have a negative effect, a spiraling effect on a permanent life insurance policy for sure.
So on the 2021 checklist would be a good idea to say reprojection. That's what they call it in the insurance industry, is to really request a reprojection on their policy, which is not just current, but it projects out what it's going to look like.
Right, based on the funding that you're currently putting in.
And in this interest rate environment, low interest rates affect those policies.
Many of them they do.
Many of them they do.
Yep.
So finally, something that we talk about all the time with folks, and I would say of new folks that we meet on a weekly basis, having a good estate plan, or even having one. right?
Yeah.
And so with this global pandemic and what's happened, I mean, it's really important to make sure that they have the proper documents in place.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've experienced this over and over now with, people having to go on ventilators and things in hospitals that don't have the appropriate HIPAA releases and healthcare powers of attorney. So that's part of it. It's not just your will, it's the powers of attorney come into play long before you're gone.
Yeah. What about inheritance tax? Just, it was abolished in Indiana. Is there any, we don't know really what new policies are going to come with new leadership. Of course, that's a state inheritance tax, but should people be concerned about it?
Yeah, I don't think that middle-class America needs to really worry about it at this stage. Certainly, it's only going to be the very high net worth people that could potentially be impacted by the new administration's changes that they're looking at.
Great, thanks, Bill. So we have that offer that we can help you with some of these decisions and really help you into 2021. We're offering this complimentary tax analysis, and to take advantage of it, all you have to do is call the number on your screen, and that's 574-633-1476. This is a $500 to $1,000 value that we're underwriting, and we're offering this for the first 10 callers this morning. So if you can sign up at our hilltopwealthsolutions.com site, stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
I switched to Home Comfort Experts.
We switched to Home Comfort Experts.
I switched.
We switched.
I switched to Home Comfort Experts.
To keep my family safe.
For their expertise.
For efficiency.
Because I trust them.
We're comfortable.
I'm comfortable. We switched to Home Comfort Experts, and I couldn't be happier.
It's time for your annual furnace tune-up. Call now and take advantage of our $89 20-point precision tune-up. 574-255-4600.
Welcome back to Your Wealth Health. I'm Erik Brenner along with Bill Davis and Matt Arends. In the past 2 weeks, we've been discussing financial decisions people need to consider as 2020 comes to an end and as 2021 gets set to begin. So Bill, analyzing the situation and making adjustments is always important, but not just at the end of the year, but really throughout the year, but especially with what we've seen in 2020.
Yeah, so we have a new administration coming in, and so it's going to be interesting. Once we get these elections over in January in Georgia, then we'll know what makes up the Senate. But it looks like the low-hanging fruit for this administration are going to be things like capital gains rate. Right now, we have some real favorable capital gains rates that are they going to be able to get it changed for the 2021 tax year? Could, but not really likely. So I think people should be considering that. I think they'll make some changes to the estate tax. We ended the last segment with talking a little bit about that. But I don't think it's going to impact our middle class viewers. I think it'll just be the very high end, probably the top 1% to 2% of income earners. And so stimulus is going to be a big one. As of the taping of the show, nothing's been done. I mean, they say they're close, but even if they get a small package done, we expect that once the Georgia elections are over and Biden the new administration gets into play, that they're likely to come out with some additional stimulus, which could be supportive in the stock market.
And Matt, it feels like the healthcare experts that are saying the next few weeks are going to be pretty challenging as it relates to the virus, and so we don't really know the effects. Certainly, small business and how many are going to make it through. I'm sure after the holiday season, there may be more retail closures. So that's an unknown, don't you think?
It is an unknown. And good news, it seems like retail is doing okay in the early going for the holiday shopping, which is encouraging. But to the points, what we're probably seeing is Family gatherings are going to look a lot different this year as people continue to distance, and traveling is actually looking like it's pretty strong going into this holiday season. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But again, the effects of what that will look like come January, will the virus continue to spike and grow? Those are the uncertainties that we don't know. And good news is it seems like the FDA is trying to get some vaccinations out there. So the distribution rate and where that's going to be funneled will probably be quite interesting as it comes to how that influences economic growth, and who's going to get that vaccination, how quick, and who's going to be the first people. So those things are just so much of the unknown, but our belief is that will continue to help bolster the economy and economic growth in 2021. We're hoping that employment comes back relatively strong. So there are some encouraging signs that we're saying there's some positive and optimism coming along the way.
Yeah, that's good points. So Bill, we pound all the time Roth IRA conversions because we like tax-free money for our clients.
Yeah.
And I just had a couple instances where people took out lump sums to help out their family, and there were no tax consequences. So it's a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you haven't considered a Roth conversion, you need to do it prior to year end, and that time's running out. So so we think that once you totally understand how much you're paying in an effective tax rate, probably in the 7 to 11% range, and you think that you can get money out at less than 10% or so total tax to pay on the Roth conversion, it makes sense to get it into a tax deferred bucket that in the future, to your point, you're able to take some lump sums out that you might not do because of the tax inefficiencies of withdrawing IRA money to do those special trips, buy a vehicle. As people start to return to travel, they're starting to think about those things again.
Yeah. So Hilltop Wealth Solutions, we're committed to education and giving back to our community, and we know you need help with your tax decisions. So we are offering a complimentary tax analysis. And to take advantage of this offer, all you got to do is just call the number on the screen. And that number is 574-633-1476. Again, that's 574-633-1476. We're going to underwrite the cost of this analysis, which is $500 to $1,000. And you can also sign up for this at hilltopwealthsolutions.com. Well, Christmas is here. Right? We want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas from our entire team at Hilltop Wealth Solutions. And I'm just curious, Bill, what do you look forward to with Christmas and the holidays?
Yeah, it's a special time, and now I have 3 grandchildren that I get to enjoy and watch them during the times. I guess it brings back when my sister and I were growing up, and how much we enjoyed the Christmas season. Yeah,
it is a special time. Matt, I know you got a list of kids like I do, and so what's the most enjoyable for you?
I think we just enjoy doing a little volunteer work at Christmas time. We like going to some soup kitchens. We like finding some families that need opportunity that we can give some gifts to secretly, that kind of thing. So we just spread some joy in a different way.
Great. Myself, our kids are getting older, but it was fun during the kids. It's still fun during the holiday season and seeing a Christmas tree and celebrating. I think everyone's ready to kind of move into 2021.
Yeah.
So we also have a big rematch here in the area between Notre Dame and Clemson for the ACC championship. And so, Bill, your prediction?
My prediction is Notre Dame 38, Clemson 34.
Wow. All right.
I think it'll be a close one, but I think we're gonna beat them again.
Yeah, I think a little less, maybe 27 Notre Dame to 20 Clemson. I think they're going to hold them. We got a good defense, and that's really it's really great. So, well, that's all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you from Bill Davis, Matt Arenz, the entire Hilltop team. Thanks for joining us today. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.